So applied accessibility in web development, accessibility refers to web content and a UI user interface that can be understood, navigated, and interacted with a broad audience. This includes people with visual, auditory, mobility, or cognitive disabilities. In this course, you will learn best practices for building web pages that are accessible to everyone. Add a text alternative to image for visually impaired accessibility. You have likely seen an alt attribute on an image tag. In other challenges, alt text describe the image's content and provide a text alternative for it. An alt attribute helps in cases where the image fails to load or can't be seen by a user. Search engines also use it to understand what an image contains to include it in search results. Here is an example: import. This is the source, this is the alt attribute. People with visual impairments rely on screen readers to convert web content to an audio interface. They won't get information if it's only presented visually. For images, screen readers can access alt attribute and read its content to deliver key information. Good alt text provides the reader a brief description of image. You should always include an alt attribute on your image. Per HTML5 specification, this is now considered mandatory. Campercat happens to be both a coding ninja and an actual ninja who is building a website to share his knowledge. This profile picture he wants to use shows his skills and should be appreciated by all site visitors. Add an alt attribute in an image tag that explains Camper Cat is doing karate. This image SRC doesn't like to an actual does not link to an actual file, so you should see an alt text in the display. Your image tag should have the alt attribute and it should not be empty. So Camper Ninja, Coding Ninja, and Actual Ninja. So Camper that explains Camper Cat is doing karate. I think this is the appropriate one. So alt. So Camper Cat is doing karate. If you run the test, go to the next challenge. Know when all text should be left blank. In the last challenge, you learned that including an alt attribute when using image tag is mandatory. However, sometimes images are grouped with a caption already describing them, or are used for decoration only. In this case, all text may seem redundant or unnecessary when an image is already explained with text color or does not add meaning to a page. The img still needs an alt attribute, but it can be set to an empty string. Here's an example like this. Background images usually fall under the decorative label as well. However, they are typically applied to CSS rules and therefore not part of the markup screen reader's process. Note: for images with a caption, you may still want to include alt text since it helps search engines catalog the image's content. Campercat has a coded skeleton page for the blog part of the website. It is planned to add a visual break between its two articles with a decorative image of an samurai sword. Add an alt attribute to the image tag and set it to empty string. Note that the image SRC does not link to an actual file. Don't worry that there are no swords showing in the display. Your image mm, so so your Image tag should have an alt attribute. The alt attribute should be set to empty string. So there will be no fallback. Go to the next page. Use heading to show hierarchical relationship of content. Heading H1 through H6 elements are workhouse tags that help provide structure and labeling to your content. Screen readers can be set to read only the heading on a page so the user gets a summary. This means it is important for a heading tag in your markup to have semantic meaning and relate to each other, not be picked merely for their size value. Semantic meaning means that the tag you use around content indicates the type of the information it contains. If you were writing a paper with an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, it wouldn't make much sense to put the conclusion as a subsection of the body in your outline. It should be its own section. Similarly, the heading tags in the web page need to go in order and indicate the hierarchical relationship of your content. Heading with equal or higher rank start a new implied section. Heading with lower rank start subsection for of a previous one. As an example, a page with an S2 element followed by several subsections labeled with H4 tags would confuse a screen reader's user. With 6 choices, it's tempting to use a tag because it looks better in a browser, but you can use CSS to edit the relative sizing. One point, a final point, each page should always have one and only one H1 element, which is the main subject of your content. This and the other heading are usually in part of search engines to understand the topic of the page. Campercat wants a page on his site dedicated to becoming ninja. How to become ninja? So this is the H1. Help him fix the heading so his markup gives semantic meaning to the content and shows the proper parent-child relationship on the section. Change all H5 tag to the proper heading label to indicate they are the subsection of S2 ones. Use S3 tag for the purpose. Your code should have 6 S3. So this is S3 and this is S3 I think. 6 S3 closing tag. 6 2 4 6 7. So this should be S3 S3 control C control V. Your code should have not have any H5 tag because this is the H1 tag which is only one only each page should have only one H1 element, so this page have only one H1 element. After that, in the main section there is the S2, so for the subsection of S2 we need the S3 element, and this is the S2 and the subsection S3 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 S3. So your code should have not have any of the H5 closing tag. If you run the test and go to the next challenge, jump straight to the content using the main element. As HTML5 introduce several new elements that gives developer more options while also incorporating accessibility features. These tags include main, header, footer, nav, article, and section. Among others, by default, a browser renders these elements similar to the humble div. However, using them where appropriate gives additional meaning to your markup. The tag name alone can indicate the type of the information it contains, which adds semantic meaning to that content. Assistive technology can access this information to provide better page summary or navigation option to their user. The main element is used to wrap the main content, and there should be only one per page. It's meant to surround the information related to your page central topic. It's not meant to include items that repeating across pages like navigation, link, or banners. The main tag also have an embedded landmark features that assistive technology can use to navigate to the main content quickly. If you have ever seen a jump to main content link at the top of the page, using the main tag automatically gives assistive assistive device that functionality. Campercat has some big ideas for his ninja weapons page. Help him set his markup by adding opening and closing main tag between header and footer covered in other challenge. Keep the main tag empty for now. So this is the header. So this is the footer. We need here main with and empty and closing. The user should have one main page, main tag. The main tab should be between closing header tag and opening footer tag. If you run the test, submit and go to the next challenge. Wrap content in an article element. Article is another one of the new HTML5 elements that adds semantic meaning to your markup. Article is a sectioning element and is used to wrap independent self-contained content. The tag work well with blog entries, forum posts, or news articles. Determining whether content can stand alone is usually a judgment call, but you can use a couple of simple tests. Ask yourself, if you removed all surrounding context, would that content still make sense? Similarly, for tests, would the content hold up if it were in an RSS feed? Remember that folks using assistive technologies rely on organized, semantically meaningful markup to better understanding your work. Note the section element is also new with HTML5 and has a slight different semantic meaning than article. An article is for standalone content and a section is for grouping thematically correlated content. They can be used within each other as needed. For example, if a book is an article, then each chapter is a section where there is no relationship between groups of content. You then use a div. A div or group content, section group related content, article group independent self content. Campercat used article tag to wrap the post on his blog page, but he forgets to use them around the top one. Change the div tag to use an article tag initially. So this is the article of Garfield files Lasagna as training field. So this is the this div. So this div is related content which is independent to this article. So we need here the article. So close the article. So this is the article, this is on article. This is the another article with yes to and p. So this is the yes to and this is the p, s to p. So this is the another article. So this is the another article. This is wrapped inside main. There are three articles with the image source that are not currently working and have the empty alt attribute which denotes this is only for decorative purpose to just make space around the space between the articles. So if you run the test and go to the next challenge, make screen reader navigation easier with a header landmark. The next HTML element that adds semantic meaning and improves accessibility in the header tag. It's, it is used to wrap introductory information or navigation link for its parent tag and works well around content that is repeated at the top of the multiple pages. Header shares the embedded landmark features you saw with main, allowing assistive technology to quickly navigate to that content. Note the header note the header is meant for use in the body tag of your HTML document. So HTML document it is different than the head element. So header is different than the head element which is inside the body element which contain the page title and meta information. The head element contains the meta information and page is titled. Campercat is writing some great articles about ninja training and wants to add a page for them to his site. Change the top div that currently contains h1 to header tag instead. So header tag is just the header of this page, which is the header, and the head is the element which contains the page's title and metadata. This is the this header is the landmark where every to quickly navigate to the content. So so we need here. So this is the body. Everything is wrapped inside the body. So this whole thing is wrapped inside the body. This is the div, the your training and camper cat div. This then this is all of the main section. So inside the main section, this is the section 1 which is the stealth and agility. So this is this section from this to this is the section. So this is the combat this is the section with as two element this article article this is the article and article with S3 style. This is also the article with this is the article with S3 style, and this is also the article with S3 style. So these these two are the article. So if you close this section, then the same combat training. Okay, combat training, and this is as the article and S3 element article, and then this is the next section, and similarly we have the third section same. So this is inside the main element. Okay, this is the main element because from this to this is the main thing in this web page, and the header of this page we have to give uh, header here rather than div. So this is the header, this is the main and section S3 header, these are inside the body tag, and in the head tag contains page title and meta information. So if you run the test, go to the next challenge. Make screen reader navigation easier with the nav. landmark. The nav elements is another HTML5 element with the embedded landmark features for easy screen reader navigation. This tag is meant to wrap around the main navigation list in links in your page. If there are repeated site links at the bottom of the page, it is necessary to mark up those with it is necessary to mark up those with the nav tag as well. Using a footer cover in the next challenge is sufficient. Camper Cat includes navigation links at the top of his training page, but wrap them in a div. Change the div to the nav to improve the accessibility on this page. So this is the header. This one is the header. So this one is the header with this element and these three ULELI with AH8 anchor tag. So this is the div with anchor tag ULELI and the anchor tag with some text. So instead of this div, we want here to nav. So close the nav. So this is the nav. So this is the UL. These are the ULs with anchor tag and some text. So this nav part closed. So we have to close the full header. So after that, these are the main section which are same, which are literally same. This is the one section, this is the second section, and this is the third section. We have the main and header. Main with some sections and header with some nav and h1. So if you run the code should have one nav tag. So if you open the header, if you open the nav, you have the nav tag. Your nav tag should wrap around the UL and its list item. So we have the wrap these all items inside the wrap inside the nav. Your code should have not have any div. Your nav element should have the closing tag. If you run the test completely and go to the next challenge. So make screen reader navigation easier with the footer landmark. Similar to header and nav, the footer elements has a built-in landmark features that allows assistive devices to quickly navigate to it. It is primarily used to contain copyright information or links to related documents that usually sit at the bottom of the page. Camper Cat training page is making good progress since the div he used to wrap his copyright section. So he used the div to copyright section information at the bottom of the page to the footer. So you have to open and close the footer. These are footer. This is the same main section. Okay, this is full main section. This is the main section. This is the header. This full is the header with UL. These are the ULs with some ULs, and this is the full nav inside the nav and the header. So your code should have only one footer tag. Okay, your code should not have any div. Your code should have an opening and closing features. Footer tag. Go to the next challenge. Improve accessibility of audio content with an audio element. HTML audio element gives semantic meaning when it wraps sound or audio stream content in your markup. Audio content also needs a text alternate to be accessed to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. This can be done with nearby text on a page or a link to a transcript. The audio tag supports the controls attribute. This shows the browser default play, pause, and other control and support keyboard functionality. This is the boolean attribute, meaning it does not need a value. Its presence on the tag turns the setting on. Its presence on the tag turns the setting on. In the example, this is full audio ID, and the controls. So these are the two of the audios. This is the MEO MP3 and this is the MEO OGG. This is the audio OGG. This is the audio MPEG. This is the controls. Note multimedia content usually has both visual and auditory component. It needs synchronized caption and a transcript. So user with visual or audio auditory impairments can access it. Generally, a web developer is not responsible for creating the captions or transcript but needs to know to include them. Time to take a break from Camper Cat and meet fellow camper Jerax. Jersax. Jerax, a champion of accessibility and screen reader user to hear the clip of the sound reader in action. Add an audio element after the P. Include the control attribute. Then place a source tag inside the audio tag with the source attribute. This which is from Amazon AWS S3. Type to audio MPEG. Note the audio clip may sound fast and be difficult to understand, but that is a normal speed for screen reader users. So below the P tag, we have to include audio. So we have to close audio also. So after this, we have to give it a source. Source src is equals to this is the source. So now type is equals to audio and mpeg. So we are not getting it right now, so we have to give it a controls. So we have the controls here. Okay, so you can hear it. So you can hear it. So this is just a bulk audio. This audio clip may sound fast and be difficult to understand, but that's the normal speed for screen readers user. Your code should have only one audio tag. Your audio element should have the closing tag. Okay, we have the closing tag. The audio tag should have the controls attributes. So because these control attributes make the audio tag suppose the control attribute. This shows the browser default play, pause, and other controls and support keyboard functionality also. Okay, this is the volume up, down. So everything we can do by this controls element. This is the boolean attribute, meaning it does not need a value. Its presence on the tag turn the setting on. So the control attribute code should have only one source tag. So this is the source with type audio and source. This your code should have inside the audio tags. Good. The value for the source attribute on the source tag should match the link of the instruction. Your code should have include the type attribute on the source tag with the value of the audio. So if you run the test, it will go and complete the task, but here is some ID also to select this audio, but we do not need ID from here. So if you go to the next challenge, Improve chart accessibility with a figure element. HTML5 introduced the figure element and the related fig caption you use together. These items wrap a visual representation like an image, diagram, or chart along with its caption. Wrapping these elements together gives a twofold accessibility boost by semantically grouping related content and providing a text alternative explaining the figure. For data visualization like charts, the caption can be used to briefly note the trends or conclusion. For users with visual impairments, another challenge covers how to move a table version of the chart's data off screen using CSS for screen readers user. Here's an example. Note that the fig caption goes inside the figure tags and can be combined with with other elements. So this is the figure. This is full figure. So inside of this we have the image photo of camper cat executing a roundhouse kick, and we have the break. So this is line break, and we have the caption fig caption. So this fig caption goes inside the figure to so Camper Cat is hard at work creating stack bar charts showing the amount of time per week to spend training in stealth combat and weapons. Help him structure his page better by changing the div tag he used to the figure tag, and the p tag surrounds the caption to the fig caption. So this is the header, same header. So if we close the UL, close the nav and the full header. This is full body, so this is full main section from here. So in the main section there is the simple section and then D. So the okay, so we have to just give your figure. So figure open, so figure close, and so we have to give the P, the fig caption, control C, so we have to close this. So I think course should have only one figure tag. So we have only one figure tag. Your code should have the fig caption tag. Your code should not have any D tags. Your code should not have any P tags. Your and the fig caption should be the child of the figure tag. So this is the child. Figure element should have the closing tag. Everything looks good. I think this is treating as so this is treating as its a figure. Okay, so if you run the test and go to the next challenge, improve form field accessibility with a label element. Improving accessibility with semantic HTML markup applies to using both appropriate tag names and attributes. The next several challenges cover some important scenarios using attributes in form. The label tag wraps the text for a specific form control item, usually the name or label for a choice. This ties meaning to the item and make the form more readable. The for attribute on the label tag explicitly associates that label with the form control and is used by screen readers. You learned about radio buttons and their labels in the lesson in the basic HTML section. In the lesson, we wrap the radio button and put elements inside a label element along with the label text in order to make the text clickable. Another way to achieve this is by using the for attribute as explained in this lesson. The value of the for attribute must be the same as the value of the id attribute of the form control. Here is an example form. This is the form and this is the label for label and id and name input term. Canva explore a lot of interest of this thoughtful blog post and wants to include an email sign up form for the for attribute and a for attribute. Using this one, so we do not need this article, article, article. So we are adding section. So this is the section form. So section is at form. This is good. Add a so inside a section this is the form. Inside of form this is a p. So inside of label I input email and text, type text, ID email, name email, but we have to give here the for email. So this is like this. Your course should have a for attribute on the label tag that is not empty. For your for attribute value should match the ID value on the email input. So if we run the test, go to the next challenge. Wrap radio buttons in a field set element for better accessibility. The next form topic covers the accessibility of radio button. Each choice is given a label with a for attribute tying to the ID of the corresponding item as covered in the last challenge. Since radio buttons often come in a group where the user must choose one, there is a way to semantically show the choices are the part of a set. The field set text around the entire group in the radio buttons. To achieve this, it often uses a legend tag to provide a description for the group in which screen readers read. For each choice in the field set element, the field set wrapper and the legend tag are not necessary when the choices are self-explanatory, like the gender selection. Using a label with a for attribute for each radio button is sufficient here. The example, this is the form and inside of this field set and this is the legend. So inside of this ID and for ID and for Camper Cat wants information about the ninja level of his user when they sign up for his email list. He added a set of radio buttons and learned from our last lesson to use label text with four attributes for each choice. Go Camper Cat. However, his code still needs some help. Change the dip the tags surrounding the radio buttons to a full set tag and save the p tag to the legend. So what we did in the previous was change. So inside of this section and this is the form. So form is from here to here. So this is the form. So this is the form. So what we have to do, so this is just the sign up. Okay, we have to give it here. So this is the field set. So this is the field set, and we have to close the field set. So of course we are going to yeah. Around the radio button, the field set element should have a closing tag. Code should have so this p tag should be legend. Legend. Oh, so this is the legend and this. Give the email and what level are you? Master submit. So this is the legend which is across the course should have and not any deep. Your course should no longer have the p tag and the text asking what level is the user is. So this is good. What we did here is change the field set and inside. So this form has so this section. So what we have here is the field section and this inside of this section we have the form. Okay, this form and inside of this we have the sign up p tag and the label with for equal to id of the input. So we have the email input field here, which is this, and after that we have the field set, which is for radio buttons, and below that we have the input tag again for to submit the button. So in the field set we can give the legend to give this and the input field and the label. Input field, radio button and the label. Like this, break again give the label and input field, break again give the this and the label and the field. It's completed. So what we have here is the legend field set with legend and legend input and labels. Then we have the full form. Then we have this section completed. If we run the test, go to the next challenge. Add accessible date picker forms often includes the input field which can be used to create several different form controls. The type attribute on this element indicates what kind of input element will be created. You may have noticed the text and submit inputs type in prior challenges. An HTML5 introduced an option to specify date field depending on browser support. The date picker shows up in the input field when needs in focus, which makes filling in the form easier for all users. For older browsers, the type will default to text, so it helps to show user the expected date format in the label or placeholder text just in case. So what we have here is the label, just the label, and the input type date, ID this, name this. Impaired is setting up a Mortal Kombat tournament and wants to ask his competitors to see what date works best. Add an input tag with the type attribute date and the ID attribute of peak date, ID attribute of peak date and the name attribute of date. This this is the form. This is the form This is the form. Tell the best competition type preferred date, and this is just a label. So inside of this, what we need is an so we have a label preferred date. So what we need is input. So we got input. So input should have the ID. First of all, ID same as peak date. Okay, just like this. And what we have to have here is type equal to, if we give into text, this is the simple one. If we give is the submit, so it will be the submit one. It is submit. So if we give it like search, it is a search one. So we will give here the date and the name attribute, name equal to date. So this is so much looking cool looking input field for date by simply putting this input ID peak date type. So this is the label. This is just the final submit button, which is also by using the input but type submit, name also submit, the value inside this also submit, like this. So this is the form. So this form is helpful to give you this all the elements. So this is the section, full section. So this section includes from this to this. This is full of the main section. So main section should be in the main part, but footer is excluded and the header is excluded, and these are all under the body. So if we run the test, so what are the code should add. So if we go to this, add the input tag. So input tag for the date selector field. Input tag should have the type of data, should have the ID attribute of peak data. Okay, peak data, and the input should have the name of date. So if we run the test, go to the next challenge. Standardize times with the HTML datetime attribute. Continuing with the date theme, HTML also introduced the time element along with the datetime attribute to standardize times. The time element is an inline element that can wrap date or time on a page. The deadline attribute holds a valid format of what date. This is the value accessed by assistive devices. It helps avoid confusion by stating the standardized version of a time, even if it's informally or colloquially written in the text. Here is an example. So this is the P master which is the case by the show time. So this is the time time and the date time equal to this last Wednesday. Again the time close which Indian Campbell as Mortal Kombat survey results are in. Wrap the time around the text Thursday, September. So this is the Thursday. So Campbell Mortal Kombat survey is are in. Wrap the time. One is change the code. Wrap of time. So inside of this full September 15th. So is superscript. This is the superscript for the TH element. So this full should be wrapped inside the time. Okay. So close the time also. Okay. So we have closed the time. So inside of this date time equal to 2015 09 15, I think like this. Your code should have a P element which includes the text "Thank you everyone for responding the cat service" and include the time element. So I think so this should be wrap around this. So inside of this time, Control C, Control V. So this should be closed. So inside Thursday, your edit time tab should have the date, date time attributes with this value. So if you run the test, this is good. So what is helping is this standard time with the HTML date time attribute. So this is the actual date and time you can set. So from Thursday, September 15th. So this is only standardized. So if you run the test, go to the next challenge. Make elements only visible to the screen reader by using custom CSS. Have you noticed that all of the applied accessibility challenges so far haven't used any CSS? This shows the importance of using a logical document outline and semantically meaningful tags around your content before introducing the visual design aspect. However, CSS magic can also improve accessibility on your page when you want to visually hide content meant only for screen readers. This happens when information is in a visual format like a chart, but screen readers users need an alternative presentation like a table to access the data. CSS is used to position the screen readers only elements of the visual area of the browser window. Here's an example of CSS rule that accomplishes this. SR only position absolute left minus 1000 pixel, width 1 pixel, height 1 pixel, top overflow hidden. So the following CSS approaches will not do the same thing. Display none or visibility hidden. Hide content for everyone including screen readers user. Zero value for pixel sizes such as width 0, height 0 removes the elements from the flow of your document, meaning screen readers will ignore it. Camper created Campercat created a really cool stacked bar chart for this training page and put the data into the table for his visually impaired user. The data already has the SR-only class. So this data which data so this data position of. So this is the table. So this is the table where th over t head, t body. Scope and other elements. So this is just the table. So to this table should be this as a class position. So we have to give it the position absolute, absolute. So absolute left minus 1000, 10,000. Okay, now we have to give the width and height 1 pixel, 1 pixel. We of course should have the set the position property of the SR1 class to the value of the absolute. Of course we have the left over the minus 10,000. Go to the next challenge. Improve readability with high contrast. Test low contrast between the foreground and background colors can make text difficult to read. Sufficient contrast improves your content readability. But what exactly does sufficient means? The Web Content Accessibility Guidance WCAG recommends at least a 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio for a normal text. The ratio is calculated by comparing the relative luminance values of two colors. The ranges from 1 is to 1 for the same color or no contrast to 21 is to 1 for white against black. The most suitable contrast. There are many contrast checking tools available online that calculate this ratio for you. Campus Cat choice of light gray text on a white background for a recent blog post has a 1.5 is to 1 contrast ratio, making it hard to read. Change the color of the text from the current gray to D3, T3, T3 to gray to a darker gray. Current gray to this is a darker gray. Oh wow! This changes improves the contrast ratio to 6 to 1. So 6 is the color of text, 1 is the background color. Your code should have the text color for the body to a darker gray. Code should not have changed the background color of the body. So if you run the test, go to the next challenge. Avoid color blindness issue by using sufficient contrast. Color is a large part of visual design, but its use introduces two accessibility issues. First, color alone should not be used as the only way to convey important information because screen readers won't see it. Second, foreground and background color need sufficient contrast ratios so colorblind user can distinguish them. Previous challenge covered having text alternative to address the first issue. The last challenge introduced contrast checking tools to help with the second. The WCAG recommended contrast ratio of 4.5 is to 1 applies for a color use as well as grayscale combination. Colorblind users have trouble distinguishing some colors from others, usually in hue but sometimes lightness as well. You may recall the contrast ratio is calculated using relative luminance or lightness value of the foreground and background color. In practice, the 4.5:1 contrast ratio can be reached by adding black to the darker color and tinting, adding white to the lighter color. Darker shades on a color wheel are considered to be shades of blues, violet, magentas, and reds, whereas lighter tinted colors are oranges, yellows, greens, and blue-greens. Cat is experimenting with using color for his block test and background, but his current combination of greenish background color with maroon text color has 2.5 is to 1 contrast ratio. You can easily adjust the lightness of the color since the is declared then using the HSL property which stands for hue, saturation, lightness. By changing the third argument, increase the background color lightness value from 35 to 55% and decrease background color as the lightness should be 35.55 and decrease the color lightness value from 20 to 15. This improves the contrast to 5.9 to 1. Your code should have changed the lightness values for the text color property to the value of 15%. Your code should have only changed the lightness value of the background color property to the value of 55%. If you run the test, go to the next challenge. Avoid color blindness issues. Be careful choosing colors that convey information. There are various forms of color blindness. These can range from a reduced sensitivity to a certain wavelength of light to the inability to see colors at all. The most common form is a reduced sensitivity to detect greens. For example, if two similar green colors are the foreground and background color of your content, the colorblind user may not able to distinguish them. Choose colors that can be thought of as neighbors on the color wheel, and those combinations should be avoided when conveying important information. Note: some online color picking tools include visual simulation on how color appear for different types of color blindness. These are great resources in addition to online contrast checking calculators. Cat is testing different styles for an important button, but the and the green yellow and the green text color are the neighboring hues on the color wheel and virtually indistinguishable. For some color blindness users, their similar lightness also face the contrast checking check. Change the text color to dark blue to solve both problems. The code should change the text. If you check this, you can go to the next challenge. Give links meaning by using descriptive link text. Screen reader users have various options for what type of content their device reads. These options include skipping to or over landmark elements, jumping to the main content, or getting a page summary from the heading. Another option is to only hear the links available on a page. Screen readers do this by reading the link text or what's read between the anchor A text, having a list of click here or read more links isn't available. Instead, use break but descriptive text within the A text to provide more meaning for these users. The link text that Impaired is using is not very descriptive without the surrounding context. Move the anchor A text so they wrap around the text information about batteries instead of click here. The code should move the anchor A text from around the word click here to wrap around the words information about the batteries. The A element should have a href element with the value. The empty href element string. The A element should have a closing tag. Your your code should move the anchor A tag from around to wrap around. So go to the next challenge. HTML make links navigable with HTML access keys. HTML offers the access key attribute to specify a shortcut key to activate or bring focus to an element. Adding an access key attribute can make navigation more difficult for key, more efficient for keyboard-only users. HTML5 allows this attribute to be used on any element, but it's particularly useful when it's used with interactive ones. This includes link button and forms control using example. Camper Cat was the links around the two vlog article titles to have keyboard shortcuts so his site users can quickly navigate to the full story. Add an access key attribute to both link and set the first one to G for Garfield and C for Chuck Norris. So this is the Garfield, so we have to give this a tag, the access key. So we give this if we give this access key like this to G, what is G? So your code should have the to the A tag the ID first. So first ID, the ID. So similarly access key for this to the chunk C. Your code should have the access key to the A tag with the ID second. Access key of A tag to with the ID of first to Z with the case method. Go to the next challenge. Use tab index to add keyword focus to an element. The HTML tab index attributes has three distinct functions relating to an element's keyword focus on its own or tag. It indicates that the element can be focused on. The value, an integer that's positive, negative, or zero, determines the behavior. Certain elements such as links and form controls automatically receive keyword focus when a user taps through a page. It's in the same order as the elements come in a HTML source markup. The same functionality can be given to other elements such as div, span p by placing tab index tab index 0 attribute on them is an example. I need a keyword focus. Note the negative tab index value, typically -1, indicates that the element is focusable but is not reachable by the keyword. This method is generally used to bring focus to the content programmatically, like when the div used for a pop-up window is activated and is beyond the scope of this challenge. Impaired created a new survey to collect information about its users. He knows input fields automatically get keyword focus, but he wants to make sure his keyword user pause and the instruction while tabbing through the items. Add a tab index attribute to the p tag and set its value to 0 bonus using tab index. Also enable CSS pseudo class focus to work on the p-tag. Yes. So introduction information nunchucks. So inside of p-tag, inside of p-tag instruction, fill in all your information, then click submit. Your code should add a tab index attribute to the p tag that hosts the form instruction. So that hosts the form instruction. So this should have tab index of 0. If you tab, so this is tab. Your code should have the tab index and p to a value. If you run the test, go to the next challenge. Use tab index to specify the order of keyword focus for several elements. The tab index attribute also specifies the exact tab order of elements. This is achieved when the attribute's value is set to a positive number of 1 or higher. Setting a tab index 1 will bring keyword focus to that element first, then it cycles through the sequence of specified tab index value 2, 3, etc. before moving to default and tab index 0 item. It's important to note that when the tab order is set this way, it overrides the default order which uses the HTML source. This may confuse users who are expecting to start navigation from the top of the page. This technique may be necessary in some circumstances, but in terms of accessibility, take care before applying it. Here is an example: tab 2, I need a phone, I get it first, I get it second. Impaired at the source field on his inspirational quote page, and he plans to position in the upper right corner with CSS. He wants to search input and submit input. Control to be the first one item in the tab order. Add a tab index attribute set to 1. To the search input. So if we go show the search input, tab index 1. Attribute and tab index attribute, and then set to 2 on the submit input. Search input and submit input like this. Your code should have the tab index attribute to the source input tag. Your code should have add a tab index attribute to the submit input tag. Code should have a tab index attribute on a source input tag to a value of 1. Code should have the tab index attribute on a submit input tag to the value of 2. If you run the test, completed the applied accessibility, and after this we will be starting our responsive web design principle in the next upcoming videos. So until then, be safe, and we will meet in the next video.